Hi guys. Well, as you know, you have been following Joanna and myself all week. Great content, right? Dating, kissing, faking the big O, meeting the right people, and learning how to meet the right types of people and to stay away from the wrong types of people. And we left off yesterday about the big O. I know I got a lot of you guys from last night following tonight, so we're going to finish that off. We're also going to talk about date camp just a little bit because I want you guys to know that there's just so much more, and I could sit here for weeks talking about this, but I know that Joanna has classes in Colorado, and you do travel and do classes in different areas, and obviously a bunch of couples could probably put together a class with you, and this could be a really cool thing. Get some wine together, and well, I'm not going to go down that road right now, but anyway, welcome back. We were talking yesterday about just kind of the big O and surrendering and just being yourself. So, as you know, the beginning of any relationship, and just because you have sex with somebody, and passionate sex such as that, it doesn't mean you're going to have a good relationship with someone. So what if somebody does have passionate sex and it doesn't go anywhere past that?
God, there's so many.
I'm the child that asks why, and a lot of whys, right?
With that one.
But why?
Well, I'm like 10 things went through my head of how to respond to that one.
I know, right? I do that to people I know.
The first thing, though, is if we've jumped in bed and we haven't had a conversation about what do we want in a relationship, are you actually looking for a relationship, or are you just looking to get laid right now? If we don't have a conversation and we don't have an idea of what this person's wanting, we're putting ourselves at a big risk. And there's always risk getting in a relationship. We can get rejected, absolutely. We can get our heart broken, and you got to risk to really love.
But who really talks when they're in the middle of a kiss, and you're in that moment, and you go with the moment, because you say, you got to just be comfortable and to feel comfortable with your body and comfortable with your feelings to go with it. So you take the chances and you go with it. That might be the end of it.
Well, let's hope that we've had some conversation before we got into that kiss.
Well, no, you do,
but in that conversation. Yeah. And so many women don't tell the truth. And a lot of men don't tell the truth about what they're looking for.
But do you have to tell somebody just because you're sleeping with them that you want to be in a relationship? Don't you think it's going to make them a little, pressure some? Well, I'm not going to sleep with you and say, we want to be in a relationship. Right. That's a hard part.
If you want to be in a relationship, and you want to be in a relationship.
If we've made it to a certain point and we've gone on dates before we hop in sec, I would assume that we're developing some kind of relationship.
Not necessarily.
No.
There's lots of men that can go out on dates, and there's women that can do this too. And we can go out on dates and we can hang out and we're having fun, and great, we're going to sleep together. But am I interested in developing a long-term relationship? Am I interested in being monogamous with you? There's a lot of people that would say no at that point.
Oh, and
they don't have the conversation, and they get down the road, and I thought you were only sleeping with me.
See, now I would not personally. I would want to know if someone's sleeping around.
Right.
I would never sleep with them. I guess that would happen. See, but that's a hard one. I've had a conversation. Yeah, but when is the right time for the conversation? That's the problem.
Before you get in bed.
But then that kind of takes away the passion from it. Do you say before you go there? When you're? Is it you've made it to first base and second base and third base? You stop and say, hey, by the way, do you want to have a relationship, and we're going to sleep together the next time?
Well, I have one of my teachers that she absolutely shares. Have the conversation about what your objective is for dating while you're on the phone before you ever go on the first date.
Don't you think that would be scary, though? I think that would scare somebody away.
It might.
But the right people, I suppose.
Exactly. The right people. If you're both on the same track, you've got a whole lot better likelihood of success on the first date and the 10th date, and maybe the 10th year, because you told the truth up front. So we get into this and don't tell the truth.
So let me ask you this then. This might be easier. I'm the why person, right? What do you suggest for those people if they're interested in having a relationship, they've gone on dates with this person, they're talking on the phone, obviously you're talking, when you're in person, you're talking about the relationship, not what you would like. I think that's where a lot of women get into trouble because they start talking about I want to have children, and if you're, The Bachelor is one of them because that, maybe somebody doesn't want to have kids right away, but that's what she wants. But maybe if they're dating, maybe she has a way of persuading that because he feels been there. See?
There's a trap.
Yeah, it is.
It's a total trap. Women think they can change men's minds
I know.
because
I never do
we
that.
change our minds all the time.
Yeah.
And that's natural for us.
Yeah,
we
it is.
are much more of a flowing being.
We need a
But
man
when
in here.
A man knows what he wants. I don't want to get married. I want to have kids. I don't want to have kids. He knows what he wants. And
But
we get
when
into
is the
it
question?
thinking, when it can be the question.
Yeah.
But let's say that we meet a man that says, I don't want to have kids. And we want to have kids. And we get into that relationship anyway, thinking, oh, he'll love me enough that he'll want to have kids with me.
Yeah, that's
It's a
you said it right there.
huge
If he
trap.
loves me enough.
Right. It's
It puts a lot of pressure on the guy.
It's a lot of pressure on the guy, and most likely, we're going to be the one that gets disappointed.
See, I've never put the ultimatum on a guy. I don't do that.
Yeah, and
no.
some won't. But are you now, you didn't put the ultimatum on the guy, but are you now selling yourself out and you resent him because what you really wanted to be was a mom?
Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. My husband now, when we met, I said, I'm not going to date somebody. I didn't say him. I made it a kind of a overall statement
Yeah.
that I'm in my 30s. At that point, I'm like, I know what I want in a relationship. I'm not going to date someone 5 years at this point. I've dated enough guys for enough years to know what I want and what I don't want.
Yeah.
So I didn't put an ultimatum with engagement. I said if I date a guy, I didn't really want to get engaged before I moved in, but if I moved in, then it would be only a certain period of time that I would live there, and then I would move back to my place. I own property, that's my own property in both. So I said, listen, it's not pressure, but if that's just not where we are, and I'm not
Absolutely.
going to bring it up, if we're not there, I'm going to move back. Maybe we should date other people and to figure out where we are. Well, obviously that didn't happen. So, but I never gave ultimatums like that. We didn't talk about when's the ring, what is it going to look like. He wanted to engage. The more he wanted to engage in it, the more I was like, you know what, I no. Because then I would start wondering, when is it going to happen? Little did I know, he got the ring. I told him that I was going to move out on the 4th of July around that time because that's when my lease was up with the person living there. I was sleeping on my engagement ring for 3 months.
Really?
He had mentioned it once. I'm like, where's the diamond? He's like, it's in Africa. I'm like, Africa? It just so happened he went to college, business school, and the guy in his class was one of the 10 families that has the Bear's diamonds, and they are from Africa. He wasn't kidding.
Wow, that's
So I was
great.
sleeping on top of my engagement ring for 3 months, and I snoop, and I find every surprise, trust me. It's not because I look for it. I don't know, it must be that lucky side of me. I just find out I'm horrible with surprises. I don't search for them. But I think for women, they're comfortable sharing what they want. And maybe a guy is comfortable going in that direction, but it's the way that she asks for it that there is no perfect answer to that.
Well, if she makes it a demand, ultimatums don't work.
They
Demands
don't work. No.
But expressing our desires,
Yeah.
he has a choice to respond. So we want to be honest about our needs and desires, which most of us are like, oh, if he loved me, he'd figure it out. If he really
Right.
knew me, he'd figure it out. The best relationship is where we both get to win, so set him up to win. Give him the information, and don't lead him on.
But there's the other part too, that everything's going well. That doesn't mean, even if he does want to be with, he may decide that he doesn't want to be with you.
Absolutely. But that's the risk of love. But he might decide he does.
So what type of advice do you have for the viewers? Because you guys, you're going to definitely need to go to, obviously, Joanna's information I'll share with you on the website. But for now, Date Camp is a great way to get a hold of Joanna. And you're at, what is it, happinessloveandpleasure.com, correct?
Yes. Happinessloveandpleasure.com. Yep.
And talks about her coaching services and how to have maybe personal calls. Skype, right? People are Skyping now, so you could do
Skype.
that. And of course, maybe having a party. People, do they do that now with yourself? Do you have like a kind of couples party where you talk about those types of things?
It's
reigniting
something
the
that's
fire?
out there, and I run different kinds of workshops, and there's some programs both online. I have lots of people that work with me all over the country because we've got online programs.
Yeah.
And So there's lots of ways to connect, whether it's an in-person workshop or it's one-on-one coaching or it's an online program, but they're really about being the best you
Right.
and creating the hot relationship.
Sure.
You know, the life where you fall in love over and over again, where the sex is hot, the love is deep.
How does it stay hot and deep? How does it? I just
Well-
asked a question.
That's
Sorry.
a good question.
The redness, right?
No.
How do you continue your? Listen, marriages. I've noticed they either break up very quickly nowadays, or they last a lifetime. It's one or the other. There's no happy medium right now.
Well, I
So
would
how do you
say
keep
if
the
there
fire
was a happy
going?
medium, it's the friend zone. It's
Yeah.
the marriage that we're still good. We're still really good friends.
But don't you think that when you marry someone, you don't marry your best friend, you marry a life partner?
You marry a lover.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who
when we
progressively
end up in
gets there.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
end up in the friend zone,
Right.
Because we lose the chemistry. So,
Why do people have to lose the chemistry?
well, because now you're bringing masculine energy and I'm bringing masculine energy, and we're trying to have a relationship. We're repelling each other.
Yeah.
So that's one problem. We've got to stay attuned to the magnetic energy that keeps the spark, that keeps the passion. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is all the things we don't talk about. So,
What is the
oh,
faux
yeah, I
pas?
got hurt.
What faux pas do people, the things that they don't talk about to make sure that they don't get caught up in these same types of patterns in relationships?
Well, and I don't know if I'd call it faux pas, but the things we don't talk about is, well, I really want you to touch me this way, or I really would hate it when you do this, but I don't tell you that.
Most people
So
would
there's
not
all
go down
this-
that road.
Right. But the problem is
They don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
They don't want to hurt somebody's feelings,
Yeah.
but they hurt their own. I'd rather I hurt than you hurt.
Right.
I want to be the nice girl, the nice guy. The problem is, at first we just tuck it under the rug, and it's, the rug stays flat. But then we do that week after week and month after month, and all of a sudden that rug has grown way up here,
Sure.
and you're on this side and he's on this side. And are we still in love anymore? Do we still love each other? Do we still have, no, I don't really want to make love tonight, because we can't feel each other anymore because there's all this unspoken crap. So to work
Yeah.
with a couple, we got to clear that out. And then it's like, oh my God, that's the woman I fell in love with. Oh, and this is the key. You got to
Right.
get that out of the way so you can feel
Constant
each other again.
communication.
Communication is essential. And then once we go through the process of cleaning it out, now how do you communicate in a
Sure.
way that you don't ever build that back up again? And you stay connected. And here's the cool part, is if we really embrace our challenges and our conflicts,
Yeah.
they actually bring us closer together.
Makes a lot of sense. We're going to go into a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to just give some more tips, information, and of course, some suggestions from you on those to kind of ignite the fire for those that are watching. And we'll see you guys back in 5. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
At Date Camp, we connect the best relationship experts and dating resources to the millions of single hearts ready for love. Date Camp delivers the information and advice needed to date successfully and love passionately.
Well, I was on this date with this guy who had absolutely no qualms about like sweating and blowing his nose while we were trying to eat, and it was disgusting, and he had no couth, and he just wasn't very tactful, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to finish up and eat and just leave. And so when the check came, I just made an excuse that I had to go and left.
Right after we ordered the main meal, he broke out in this horrible allergic reaction. He had to go home immediately. You know, he left me money to pay for everything, but I had to like sit there all by myself. But got to take home his leftovers.
I go out with my girlfriend, we have a nice meal, we're drinking some wine, maybe a little bit too much, get in the car, heading to the prom, and she says, I'm not feeling so well. I pull over, turn up the air conditioner, trying to cool her down, and that's when everything came up. Right into the vent, blew right back on us.
And we were eating this salad, and it had this stupid cherry tomato I could not get with the fork. So it was rolling around the plate. I finally just scooped it, threw it in my mouth, and when I bit it, it exploded and shot across and hit him in the face. It was so embarrassing.
Hi guys, welcome back. Well, I am sad to say this is the last segment of an incredible week with Joanna and learning about date camp and learning about just the pursuit of happiness and a plentiful and healthy relationship and getting that. And maybe where you're at right now, kind of figuring out where you are, and maybe after watching these last few days, you'll see that you could be in something great and magical, or maybe it's time to reevaluate. So with that being said, welcome back, Joanna. And we were just talking about kind of the perception and sending off the right and the wrong messages, and obviously sleeping with someone and being more communicative before you get to that point, ladies. Don't go with the passionate kiss, and don't use that head, use this head. That'll save yourself the heartbreak in the end. So do you have any advice for the people that are watching? Because there's one segment we should cover. That's about the people that are in relationships. And they are in healthy relationships. But everybody gets to a point in a relationship where they're married or dating a long time, where the passion is not as strong in the beginning. And people forget that it cannot be fantasy the entire time. That would be unrealistic to assume. We go through ups and downs. Yeah. So for those who have had the long-term relationships or have been married or are still married, how do you keep the fire going?
Well, there's a couple of different things. And one, we've been talking all week about chemistry, right, from the very beginning. And so that part of making sure that if you're feminine, you stay in your feminine. You put your sexy on, whatever your sexy looks like. It can be your sweats and a t-shirt.
I think that's
but there's
sexy.
a sexy energy. And it can be dressed up in your little back dress. But what are the things that have you wanting each other?
And you have to ask, too.
And learning,
you have to know.
Staying curious. Absolutely staying curious. So continuing to learn about each other, continuing to do date nights. We get out of that courtship space once we get into a long-term relationship, and that's one of the first things you can bring back the courting.
Bring back the sexy.
Bring back the sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So those are big parts. And then, something I haven't mentioned, but I've got a certification as a Tantra educator.
Oh.
So sacred sexuality.
Tantra.
And that's another place where we're learning so much about.
I got those positions. You got to be quite flexible to do some of those, like a trapeze artist or something.
Yeah, but that's the books. That's the story that everybody gets about it. There's a bigger piece of it that is about how do I really meet you on an intimate level, where we can take it's not just the motions and the how quick and how fast, but like how much do we meet each other?
So there's hundreds.
There's hundreds of ways, and it's not all positions.
No.
It's very much about energy. And so one thing is that when we start to really learn how the energy moves through our body, you can actually create this very powerful circuit. And there's actually a date camp video on Tantra as well. And then there's a couple of videos on my YouTube.
www.datecamp.com?
.tv.
So it's www.datecamp.tv for what she is speaking about Tantra and different positions. So keep that in mind. I'll have it in my credits too.
And there's also a couple of videos of me talking about talking about Tantra on my YouTube site.
Okay.
So there's lots of ways to learn, but when we start to realize that if we circulate energy between our bodies, or we learn how to extend our orgasms. I mean, a lot of people's orgasms happen like this, but when you start to...
That's because they wait too long.
Well, even...
Or they just want to be done with it.
Well, not necessarily. And this works for guys and
Because
men and women.
girls do use guys too, you know.
Yeah.
It's true.
That is true. No argument. But we can have our orgasms go from seconds to minutes.
How about hours?
And I don't know of anybody that's had a continuous orgasm for hours. I can say
Viagra.
minutes, but that's not orgasm. That's erection.
But that's for the guy. For the girl, she could have them for hours. If he's got the Viagra going on.
An ongoing orgasm for hours might be
Right.
a little challenging, but still we can have more, longer, deeper by getting into how does the energy work within our body.
Right.
How do we circulate it and then amplify it up? So it's like how much pleasure can you actually let yourself have? So these are ways that you get to continue to expand and discover.
But you can't
the
talk about
potential.
those things because that's where it becomes weird for certain people. Don't you think?
We've got to get over our sexual repression.
I know.
We
I know.
have to get over it.
It's got to be a gentle progression though, because it's just that's where we are.
It
does
is,
say
but
we
it takes one step. And how many times I've had couples
It's true.
come to an event and say, "Oh my God, in 2 hours, we've never talked about these things."
Most people don't.
And that they don't.
Yeah.
But there's so much freedom and possibility. If we want to keep it hot, we got to talk. And then we got to actually share our energy and be creative and be connected.
Yeah.
And take the risk to be intimate and vulnerable.
Right.
And passionate. Because there's so much out in society that says, oh yeah, keep it behind closed doors. Don't talk about it. Don't show it. Don't admit it.
Right.
That's where the juice is. That's where the passion is. That's where the ecstasy is. And so for couples, singles, you want to know you're going into a relationship with somebody that wants that long term. And then couples is how do we keep committing to it
Sure.
and choosing it. And so many couples will keep choosing their jobs and their kids and everything else in life over the relationship, and then they wonder why there's no spice.
They get caught up in the daily
Yeah,
activities.
We have to choose it.
Yeah.
And when we choose it and we don't build that rug up, we tell the truth, and we invite in how do we go deeper
Right.
in our sexuality. What's possible? How big of an orgasm can I have? How long of an orgasm can I have? How much pleasure can I actually
Right.
enjoy in this body? There's
Your
an
boyfriend
immense-
must really like you.
There's an immense possibility of what can happen for couples.
Isn't that the truth? Now, the person that now I do get personal with the guests that come on, but the person you're dating, right? And do you find that these things that you're teaching that are easy for you personally to do when you are dating someone? Some people practice what they preach, some people don't. So I always wonder, how does that side work?
Well, and there's two aspects of it.
And I'm not asking for
So-
details.
Yeah, no,
That's
I'm
what
not sharing
asking.
details.
But
there-
how does that work for you? Do you find yourself that you're able to kind of, sometimes we're better. I'm very good at giving advice. I stink at following it.
Well, I also there's a way of if I try to teach a man something,
Yes.
and I don't always meet men who study Tantra to the level that I have.
Right.
And so
They probably think you're Wonder Woman.
there's an aspect of allowing it to develop. I'm not going to go in and start teaching all kinds of stuff because that's going to put me back in the masculine energy, which is not where I want to be.
Right.
So I'm going to meet with my man, and I have a partner who wants
Yeah.
to keep exploring, and so it gets to keep deepening and keep discovering. So
I like that. So now, the relationship you're in, are you thinking this could be the potential?
I'm not going to put that out on national TV.
I know. It's like I think Samantha crossed over that line there. That's what I had to ask. I'm with the curious Sam. I ask all those questions. I'm that horrible child that continues to ask why in like 5 different ways, but I promise I'm
It's
going to.
all good.
So, for those who are not in Colorado and don't have the pleasure of having your company and being a part of it, obviously they can go to datecamp.tv. You have your own website,
Yep.
which is happinessloveandpleasure.com.
Yes.
They can also you can fly and travel and have courses or different things that talk about some of these things that maybe people might be more comfortable with if they learn a different perception, a different way to look at it,
Yeah.
perhaps, right?
Yes, absolutely. I can totally travel.
Yeah.
I run virtual groups and
Good.
virtual programs.
So
and
for
then-
Skype, right?
Yep. And
On the phone.
Yep, or webinars. And they can go to datecamp.tv, and particularly for singles, they can go download. There's a free download, 25 dating tips to,
Oh, that's nice.
25 successful dating tips. They're right on the homepage. I can download that there.
Sure.
And then on my website, there's what I call the Passionate Love Jumpstart Kit.
Sure.
And so there's 7 secrets to passionate love, and then there's the article on the great sex practices.
Right.
And so lots of things that they can get just to get started and dive deeper, and then join into the programs in all the ways they want to.
That sounds awesome. Well, with that, I'm going to, Liz, this has been a great week and a chock full of information. And I want to thank you for spending time with me and sharing this valuable information, because it's a new year and this is so valuable. And it's, my friends, I'm dealing with it. My friends are dealing with it. It's an ongoing process. And I hope that you'll come back for a live audience
I would
and
love
to
that.
me and make everyone in the audience try some of that stuff out. I know. Hey, right? Where can people reach you again? Guys, it will be on our new website that's coming up for the show at SamanthaGoldbergShow.com, but also at happinessloveandpleasure.com or at datecamp.tv to download some of those fabulous tools. And any bits of advice that you have before we say goodbye?
Be real, be passionate, choose love.
Spoken from a true, beautiful, much taller and more fabulous version of Dr. Ruth. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you soon.